Good evening, I'm Katerina Georgieva. Thanks for joining us. Here's what's making news right now.
The jury's recommendations, I think, were really sound and came from the evidence, and we're really grateful for that.
My personal goal is in the years to come is to have the banners run from the Legion all the way down to the cenotaph in front of Metro.
It is a park-like setting, but it's also an important place for a lot of family members because their loved ones are buried here.
A jury has reached a decision in the Matthew Mahoney inquest. He was shot and killed by police in 2018 following a long history with the Windsor healthcare system for his mental health. The CBC's Jason Vio joins us live now in studio with more. Jason, we've heard Mahoney's family say that he fell through the cracks of a broken system. How does the jury want that system to change?
Well, they made 9 recommendations directed at a number of institutions to hopefully affect that change in the future and prevent future similar deaths. Now, let's start with Windsor Regional Hospital and the Ontario Ministry of Health. The jury would like to see the idea of a mental health care advocate explored to help people like Matthew Mahoney navigate the system. They also want a task force created within 6 months to review mental health funding and the timeliness of care. Here are some of the other recommendations. Windsor Police is being asked to provide mandatory de-escalation and mental health training twice a year, and the jury wants to see its community outreach and support team program, known as COAST, offered 24 hours a day. That's where an officer works alongside a crisis support worker to help with people who have mental illness. And the jury also wants to see monthly data published to clearly show mental health wait times, not just that initial assessment, and information that shows the days and times those supports are available.
Jason, we've heard Mahoney's brother advocate for change since the day of the shooting, and you just finished talking to him. So what does he have to say tonight?
His brother Michael says overall he's pleased with the jury's findings and recommendations. Michael has been representing the family throughout this entire process and says the 4-year wait was far too long. He says it was difficult hearing testimony, bringing him back to the day that his brother was killed. But the recommendation he says may have changed the outcome here is the possibility of creating a mental health care advocate.
We made lots of attempts to try and get in touch with doctors, but it always slipped through the cracks. There's lots of potential touch points, but despite those potential touch points, we were never able to connect with anyone and advocate for Matthew in a way that he wasn't able to. And we believe that things may have been different if that were the case.
Now, there isn't any requirement for the organizations to implement any of these recommendations, but he's hopeful this inquest raises awareness around issues involving mental health and will influence policymakers to create that change.
Jason, the jury also made a finding about how Mahoney died. What did they decide?
That's right, and they classified his death as a homicide. It's not the same, though, as how the criminal code defines it. So in this case, they viewed it as a lawful killing by police the jury found to be a homicide. Now, the jury also considered suicide by cop as an option, but opted against that finding. Lawyers representing the police say that was most appropriate because his actions, Mahoney's actions, caused the police to shoot him. Now, it's also important to note a coroner's inquest isn't meant to assign blame, but rather aim to prevent similar deaths in the future. And we do know Ontario's Special Investigations Unit also cleared both officers of any wrongdoing. Now, as for what's next, the organizations named in the recommendations have 6 months to respond, and we'll have to wait and see if any of the changes are made.
Thanks for covering this inquest for us, Jason. CBC's Jason Vio live in studio tonight. A 19-year-old Windsor man died Tuesday in a motorcycle collision in Lasalle. The collision was one of 3 in our area just this week. The recent spate of crashes has renewed calls for more safety, education, and enforcement. Dale Molnar has more.
A lot of people are just distracted and are just trying to go to work.
Marshall McNaughton has been riding his motorcycle in traffic for only a few months, but already he has seen how treacherous it can be.
People are very dangerous. They're on their phones. They're doing just random tasks, changing the music, speeding.
Yesterday, there were 2 crashes involving motorcycles, one at Droulard and Tecumseh, and the other at the roundabout on Sandwich Street. Both resulted in serious injuries. The fatal collision happened on Howard Avenue at Huron Church Road Tuesday. Windsor police urged drivers to be more attentive when watching out for motorcyclists. Drivers need to look out for motorcycles which can be more easily hidden in blind spots or masked more easily by other objects in our environment, such as bushes, fences, pillars, and other vehicles. This comes at a time when residents are discussing road safety, especially at Gladstone and Richmond streets.
In the past 5 days, we have a camera over there on my neighbor's porch, and I've edited through 120 hours worth of footage. And in that only 5 days, there's dozens and dozens of near misses, cars honking their horns.
Drew Heidenraw has started a petition to improve the safety of the intersection. So far, he has over 580 signatures.
All that needs to be done is there needs to be an additional stop sign there and an always stop.
The owner of a motorcycle safety training company says motorcyclists also need to do things to make sure they are safe, like dressing properly.
And that means full face helmet. That means full leather gloves. It means tough outerwear, and it means good boots.
McNaughton has a protective jacket that is cooler in summer and gloves with copper in them that protect his hands. Redicop also suggests motorcyclists dress in brighter, more visible colors and try to avoid congested traffic.
The idea is that we're hoping to avoid us blending into the background.
The son of the man who suffered serious injuries at the intersection of Drouillard and Tecumseh also has this message for drivers, quote, "Pay more attention and please slow down." Dale Molnar, CBC News, Windsor.
People will march and protest to end sexual and domestic violence against women tonight. It will happen at Charles Clark Square starting at 7 o'clock. And organizer Ann Rodzinski joins me now for more on this. So thanks for doing this, Ann.
Yes, thanks for having me.
What can people expect this evening at Take Back the Night?
So Take Back the Night is a historic movement symbolic about ending violence against women, domestic violence, and sexual violence. It's organized by the Violence Against Women Coordinating Committee of Windsor, Essex, which is a collection of folks from all the organizations in Windsor who work on ending violence against women. So what you can expect is to show up at 7 p.m. Or whenever you want to show up, and there will be speeches from women who are some women who are survivors, some women who do work with survivors, women who care about this issue. We will talk about the movement and what it means and the history of it. And then we will take to the streets and we will walk a loop around the downtown Windsor core and then show back up at Charles Clark Square for some hot chocolate.
Mm-hmm. And it's such an important subject, and you're on the front line, so to speak, because you're a sexual violence education specialist at the University of Windsor. I'm wondering, what has your office noticed as students and staff are returning to campus?
Yeah, so one thing that I've noticed that's very cool is that students seem very excited about all of the prevention initiatives that we have on campus, which is really exciting. With the pandemic, we've been offering all of these different forms of education online. I think it's been really hard for folks to participate in the same ways during the pandemic. So it's been really great to have the students back on campus. Everyone seems really excited about taking our bystander initiative workshop, which is bringing in the bystander. It's a workshop that teaches folks how to intervene on behalf of other people. And then we also have Flip the Script, which is a resistance program for young women. And we've had a lot of interest in both. Folks seem really excited about both of those programs. So we're looking at a really good year, I think.
What else can people do to help when it comes to this?
Yeah, so on top of all of the education that we have on campus, we also have support available to survivors. So folks who are members of our Windsor community can reach out to our office and get in touch, and they can access all kinds of support through our office. And then there's so many wonderful organizations in the community who do the same things for folks who aren't members of the University of Windsor campus.
Mm-hmm. I'm wondering, we talk about this subject so often, and this event happens every single year. And I wonder if you can speak to how it feels that this is a conversation that needs to keep happening over and over again.
Yeah, I think as somebody who works in the sexual violence field, obviously we hope that the things that we're doing are contributing to a reduction or potentially the end of sexual violence against women and against folks of all genders. Realistically, that's not what's happening. Things are not getting better. They're the same. And in some cases are getting worse during the pandemic or as we come, to the end of our time of isolation. So we're definitely seeing, that this is still necessary. It's important for us to still be having this conversation and for everyone to be active in the efforts to prevent and end sexual violence.
Thanks so much for this, Anne. Really appreciate your time.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Take Back the Night starts at 7 o'clock this evening. Anger continues to grow in Iran over the death of a young woman who died in police custody. 22-year-old Mahsa Amini was arrested last week in Tehran by the country's morality police. She had traveled to the city with her family from the province of Kurdistan. She was accused of violating Iran's strict dress code policies. She later died in police custody, caused by what authorities claim to be a heart attack. Protesters have been calling for justice and change. Banners have been installed along Wyandotte Street in Old Riverside. They honor veterans who have ties to the Windsor community. Organizer Marty Flanagan says it's a new way to honor those who gave so much for their country.
I think it's a good community in Windsor, Riverside. They understand we have a diverse military history, and the fact that we're proud to display that shows that people are willing to be involved. And it's the same with these banners. You see the pictures of these, ladies and gentlemen when they served, and that's something to see. It doesn't have to be World War II. I mean, even a friend of mine, when she served, just seeing her picture is something. It's great. It's great to see. Yeah, I'm hoping not just it instills a younger generation to look at these banners, but I'm hoping that it's a younger generation of veterans that want to say, yeah, I was a veteran and I'm happy with it, or at least to have their families celebrate them. Because if you put a uniform on, you signed a check for your country, and it doesn't matter what you did or how long you served. You did that, and there were sacrifices at times, and it's good to acknowledge that. One particular is close to me. It would be Barb Perry's dad, Al Perry. When I moved here from New Brunswick, they adopted me, that family, more or less. And I became very close to Al. Al flew with 640 Squadron in World War II. He was a bomb aimer and was awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross. And for me, when they put his banner up, which is right out front of the Legion here on Sunday, I got teary-eyed. I've never forgotten Al. He passed away a couple of years ago, but seeing that banner up, I'm a little bit closer to him when those banners are up, and that felt pretty good.
For the first time ever, a local cemetery is inviting the public to visit as part of Open Doors this weekend. I stopped by the historic site to learn more about what people can expect. I'm here at Windsor Grove Cemetery, and I'm here to get a bit of a preview in advance of Open Doors on Sunday. But more than that, I'm here to learn about the rich history that the cemetery holds. It's one of the oldest in our region, with some really important history to note.
There's beautiful stained glass windows, so hopefully it's a sunny day.
What do people know about Windsor Grove here in this community? I think it's one of the oldest cemeteries we have here, is that right?
Yes, I was looking at a copy of the bylaw recently. It was established in 1864, so well over 150 years.
How do you feel when you walk into the cemetery?
I get excited because I just love cemeteries.
Say more about that.
Well, you can even if you don't know anyone here personally, you start looking at the markers and you look at the information, their birth and death dates, and there's just something about it. You think, there's something unusual there.
It sounds a little bit like it makes you think about your own life or gain some perspective, like that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. This is his gravesite.
And the information is actually the other side. It has a picture of him as well as the UAW crest.
Charles Brooks, the union leader who was killed in the 70s, is buried here, and he's one of the 12 individuals who are going to be highlighted at Open Doors on Sunday. The cemetery really wants to highlight some of the individuals who are resting here as a way to reflect back the rich history that the cemetery represents when it comes to Windsor.
This is actually a private mausoleum. So the other mausoleum on the grounds is more public, but this was built by a family, the Seagrave family, back the very early 1900s. I believe the lots that it sits on were purchased in 1900. Photographs of the inside of the mausoleum surfaced, I guess, a few weeks ago. And it showed that there are 12 crypts inside. And we only had the names of 2 individuals that were interred there, but there were 6 crypts that had markers on them. So we thought, who are these other 4 people?
This tombstone right here is such a great example of what some of the volunteers are still doing at this cemetery, because a lot of the tombstones don't have a lot of information. So volunteers are doing research and trying to find out more about the people who are resting here. Why is it personal for you? Why have you invested so much of your time and attention into this cemetery?
Well, I love family history, and anybody that volunteers here does as well.
So we're walking towards the main mausoleum here at the cemetery, and I understand that you will be opening the doors to it for the public over the weekend. So what can people expect?
Right now, only people who have family members interred in there have keys.
Okay.
Because it's kept locked otherwise. And people will be able to see what a mausoleum looks like inside.
One of the key individuals who is resting at the mausoleum that the cemetery is going to be highlighting on Sunday is Gordon McGregor. He is the man who actually founded Ford of Canada. Walking through the cemetery, it is peaceful, it's reflective of the history of our community, and we're all being invited to do that, to come and step into this space and learn about some of the people who are resting here as a way to reflect on our own lives and reflect on our community. Big thanks to Pat for walking me around the cemetery. It was really interesting. A live look outside there. Another sweater weather kind of day today. Cloudy skies overnight with a chance of showers tomorrow. Dahlia Ashtree will be here after the break with your weather forecast. Welcome back. Atlantic Canada is bracing for what forecasters say could be one of the most severe storms in the country's history. Hurricane Fiona is headed for Nova Scotia and getting bigger as it moves. It's expected to make landfall early tomorrow morning before moving into other eastern provinces. The CBC's Shayna Luck reports on the preparations.
Atlantic Canadians know storms, but some are taking even more precautions than normal this time around. Just 3 years ago, the storm called Dorian caused widespread power outages and destruction. This one could be worse.
It's stronger than Dorian was back in 2019. So where it fits in the history books, we'll have to make that determination after the fact, but it is going to be certainly a historic extreme event for Eastern Canada.
Many people spent the day stocking up. Fresh produce is going fast, so are baked goods, anything that doesn't need refrigeration.
We had people lining up before we even opened, people calling before we even opened saying, "Can you hold bread for me?"
At this small store with no backup generator, they worry about what will happen if their power goes out.
Keep our fingers crossed and keep those stores closed.
Because there's little question, the power will be going out. Nova Scotia Power has activated its emergency hub. It's monitoring the grid, preparing to send out workers as long as it's safe.
As of right now, we do have over 800 people in the field right now getting ready to restore power, and hundreds more behind the scenes coordinating that effort. In addition to that, we have reached out to our partners in Ontario, Quebec, all of Atlantic Canada, and Maine to have other contractors available if we do need to bring them in as well.
The ocean seems calm, but on PEI, oyster farmers are hurrying to get their cages in before the storm.
You ever seen a storm like this tracking towards this area?
No, hope we never will again.
After Fiona hits the Maritimes, it will head on to Newfoundland and Labrador, where it's expected to hit the west and southwest coast hardest. Shayna Luck, CBC News, Halifax.
Dahlia Ashry joins us now for weather. Dahlia, a lot of people might be wondering, will Fiona be impacting us here locally?
I mean, it's a great question, Katerina, and the answer to that is no, because we'll take a close look here in just a second. So this is the glow of the Earth, and there's something called a left hook hurricane. So basically, that means that the winds are moving westerly, which really what that means is that, and you can see it right here, is that impacts the Atlantic coast, so really the Maritimes. Now, we won't really be affected by that here in Ontario. Eastern part of Quebec might be impacted, but for the most part, really, we're seeing these strong winds and rain, and which is when it blends together, really the hurricane, which is making its way to the Maritimes, really. So that's really what we're seeing, and that's the explanation for that. Now, as for Windsor and southwestern Ontario, we're seeing mainly a damp weekend, a chilly one, but that is pretty seasonal for fall. The normal highest time of year is 20 degrees. We're sitting a bit below that, 17 degrees. The normal low 10, we're sitting a bit below that, 8, but still hovering around seasonal temperatures. The current temperature right now in Windsor, 15 degrees, a little cooler out in Goderich, 13 degrees, and Chatham-Kent, 14. So we're in those double digits, but we go to the single digits later on tonight, but we'll get to that in a bit. First, let's look at this, a frost advisory in the northern parts of Ontario, so a little bit of cooler temperatures right there. Now, like I said, some precipitation, scattered showers is expected for Saturday around noon. And then some more scattered showers in the evening, and then some stronger showers and a risk of a thunderstorm really heading into Sunday. So really make sure that you have your umbrella with you because you will need it. And those damp conditions really will continue for the rest of the weekend. Also some strong winds. Winds will be gusting up to 30 kilometers an hour tomorrow morning. A little bit of a breezy day. And then it'll start to get lighter by the afternoon. And then it'll pick back up at around 7 a.m. on Sunday. Winds will be gusting northeasterly 27 kilometers an hour. Now, like I said, temperature will cool down tonight, down to those single digits. Windsor 8 degrees, southwestern Ontario, mostly all single digits, sorry. And as we head into the next few days, like I said, those damp conditions, a risk of a thunderstorm on Sunday, and then back to some fairly dry conditions on Wednesday, but also some scattered showers. So really overall damp weather, umbrella is needed over the next few days, and pretty typical seasonal temperature right now.
Yeah, to be expected, really. Thanks for that, Dahlia. Have a wonderful weekend, eh?
Thanks, you too.
When we come back, a glow-in-the-dark discovery in our own backyard that you will not want to miss. Stay with us.
home.
Welcome back. When superheroes aren't fighting crime, they could be doing other helpful tasks like cleaning windows. That's what a team that swung by an Alberta hospital was up to recently. This group of superheroes created quite a buzz as they rappelled down the building to help clean the windows at the hospital. And they were a big hit with people outside and inside, and most importantly with the kids, of course. The fearless team included Batman, Superman, Mr. Incredible, and even Obi-Wan Kenobi. This is the 7th year that this has happened at the healthcare facility. I love that. It's really bringing so much joy to everybody there. Now, I have seen a few houses with Halloween decorations already set up. A little too soon, but I guess this is where we're at. It looks like Mother Nature is getting in on the display as well. Look here at what's been spotted over at the Devonshire Conservation Area. These mushrooms, they actually glow in the dark. That is right. I said they glow in the dark. They're glow-in-the-dark mushrooms, and they're actually called jack-o'-lantern mushrooms. They're not actually rare. Michigan has them, and other parts of North America have them as well. But a warning to you, they are toxic, so if you run into them, do not go munching on these mushrooms if you're lost in the woods. And I have a joke for you. What did the mushroom request when booking his hotel? A shroom with a view, please. That is it for CBC. There we go. Yes, thank you, thank you. That is it for CBC Windsor News. I'm going to be away for the next couple of weeks. I'm going to Europe for a little bit. I'm very excited, and you will be in the very capable hands of Jason Vio for that time being. Thanks so much. Have a great night. See you later.